It gives me great pleasure to introduce everyone to Patty Mueller, who is the president of Tropical Wings. She'll explain what Tropical Wings is it's a very interesting group. She grew up in Minneapolis and she graduated from the University of Minnesota with a biology major. After that, she worked for the Fish and Wildlife Service, National Park Service, and other in the Virgin Islands and Alaska and a number of other places. She was and then she moved back to Minnesota, and she was the project manager of the St. Croix Watershed Master Watershed Steward Program. She got an education degree at that point and has been teaching for 12 years in Hudson Schools as a science teacher, where her husband also teaches. And she was very instrumental in founding Tropical Wings in 2010. So it's still going strong today, and it's got some interesting activities that you'll love to hear about. So take it away, Patty.
Thank you very much. I'm hoping everyone can hear me. If for some reason you can't, you simply have to say something in the chat and we'll address that. So I'm just going to assume everyone can hear, which is great. So yes, I'm really happy to be here. I also live here in the St. Croix Valley. I live in Hudson, Wisconsin. My husband and I are now retired, so we have even more time to be exploring all the beauty that is surrounding us in all seasons of the year, actually. We're one of those people that actually love winter. So Tropical Wings. Tropical Wings has its home here in the St. Croix Valley, although our reach is international, being that we have a partnership or a part of the partnership with Costa Rica. Tropical Wings started back in 2010, 2011 as a citizens organizing group, and it's all focused around the birds we share. And I'm going to be showing quite a few images of birds, which of course is, I'm sure, what everyone was hoping for. And you're always welcome to try and guess what bird happens to be on the screen. Some of you, I'm sure, are people that have gone birding before, and perhaps you know some of these warblers that I'll be sharing with you and some other birds. So feel free to throw it into the chat box, and I certainly will divulge the answer of what birds we're looking at when also. So this is our mascot that I've pictured here, and you may notice some resemblance with our mascot and the image that is on our little logo there. So this is one of my favorites, and I've seen it in Costa Rica, and I get oh so excited when that happens, as I do even when I see it up here. It's the golden winged warbler. Okay, there we go. Tropical Wings has as our mission supporting the Sister Parks Agreement, and that's one of the things I'm going to be sharing with you. What does that mean? Who's in the Sister Parks, and what do we do? That's sort of the meat and potatoes of this program here. And we support this agreement by promoting an awareness of neotropical migratory birds and supporting habitat conservation through building relationships within and between communities at both ends of the migration. And that's a real key thing, that we're very active and involved down in Costa Rica, as well as up here in the St. Croix watershed. I don't ever want to assume, being an educator, as Sue said, I taught in Hudson Schools for about 10 years. I don't want to ever assume that people know everything I'm talking about. So maybe you all know this, but I'm going to share what a neotropical migratory bird is, because there's certainly birds that migrate, but they're not neotropical migrants. So to be a neotropical migrant, you basically need to be breeding in either Canada or the United States during our summer, of course, and then you need to be spending your winter, as maybe some of you do, down south of the border. Mexico, Central America, South America, or the Caribbean islands. So that's a neotropical migratory bird. And those are the birds that we have as our focus in this partnership that I'll be telling you more about. And we have a certain kind of group of these neotropical migratory birds, specifically the ones that go between Costa Rica and Minnesota and Wisconsin here. So again, this is all going to make more sense as I continue on, but Tropical Wings is a part of a partnership. In fact, we support the partnership between the National Park Service, so up here in the United States, and the National Park Service down in Costa Rica, which is called the CNAC. And that, of course, I don't know how many of you are Spanish speakers, but that basically is talking about it's their system of national conservation areas. And there's a particular area within CNAC, a geographical area in Costa Rica that we are especially focused on. And I'll show a map to show you that. But we were very excited in 2019, we became an official friends group. And you may or may not know that many national parks have a friends group. As an example, the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway here in our backyard, the St. Croix River Association is their official friends group. So we are the official friends group of the partnership or the Sister Parks Agreement, which is kind of cool. We were very, very excited about that and patted ourselves on the back and such. So it's just a piece of this idea that we're supporting these sister parks through education, ranger exchanges, and habitat restoration. Again, on both ends of the migration. And there's our little yellow-winged warbler again. There's someone in this picture that you all know, and maybe several people you know, and maybe some others of you are in this picture and I just don't know you, so I wouldn't be able to say one way or the other. But this signing happened, I believe, and Sue, you may know exactly the date, but I think in 2014. And what you're seeing here, this is at Arcola Mills. I'm talking about the picture on the left-hand side. At Arcola Mills, there was a group of citizens, a grassroots group that helped this whole Sister Parks idea be born. The mover and shaker behind it, really the person whose vision and determination and just time and energy and passion behind this whole Sister Parks was Chris Stein. He was the superintendent at that time of the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway. And he's the one that made it all happen. But you see all the people in this picture. Certainly there were a lot of people supporting this idea and just kind of coming together to make it happen. Chris Stein is sitting with the then Midwest Regional Director, the director back then, and they are signing the agreement representing basically all the parks in the upper Midwest. So that's what happened there at that signing. And then on the right, this is the partnerships that are in this agreement are so exciting. What you're seeing here is the last signature of one of the 15 national parks in the upper Midwest. That's Mark Weaver. He was at that time superintendent of the North Country Scenic Trail. So we're actually out on the trail. And not only is Mark signing this document on the trail, you know, joining the partnership basically with his national park, actually his scenic trail, the North Country Scenic Trail, but there's 3 park rangers from Costa Rica that were up doing a ranger exchange at the time he was signing that document. And so it's just, I get goosebumps when I think of all the cool things that have happened in this partnership between Costa Rica, literally people from Costa Rica and folks from up here. So that's what was happening there up on the North Country Scenic Trail, also in 2014. And then we'll bring you down to Costa Rica, and this is something that was very much helped along by Rotary, another very important partner in this whole Sister Parks agreement. But again, Chris Stein, and then some of the folks from Costa Rica, kind of the top dogs in the CNAC, in their national park system, signing the official agreement, joining the Costa Rican parks to the parks up here in the upper Midwest. And so that signing. Every 5 years, we renew this sister park agreement, and so we renewed it back in 2018. And we now are working with, Chris Stein has moved to other positions within the National Park Service, so we are now working with the superintendent of Indiana Dunes National Park, Paul Labovitz. So there's many people involved in making this happen. So let's give you a little bit more info then. Who is in this partnership? And again, it's all focused on the birds that we share. Oftentimes, national parks will have a partnership with another national park that shares a geographical feature, a canyon or a river or a mountain range or whatever. They're sharing something that is common within their geography. Well, this is unique in that we're sharing a resource. We're celebrating the shared resource of these migratory birds that are spending part of the year up here with us in the upper Midwest and part of the year down in Costa Rica. So we've got 14 National Park Service units and the I&M network, that's Inventory and Monitoring Network, that's up in Ashland. They do a lot of research for the National Park Service. And then there's 7 parks and protected areas in Costa Rica. Now, Costa Rica is a pretty small country. You can see it superimposed over our watershed. I mean, it is bigger than our watershed, but Minnesota and Wisconsin are certainly much larger together than Costa Rica. But we are partnering with parks that are down in this little peninsula where the green arrow is pointing. That's the Osa Peninsula. It's an area that most tourists don't ever get to. It's not an easy place to get to, but it has some of the greatest biodiversity on the planet, actually, and I'll talk more about that later. So that's kind of the geography of where it is that we are partnering with. So here's a list, and I'd love for you to just look through this and think of the places you have been, and I'm sure many of you are well traveled. Again, these are all in the upper Midwest, but certainly not just Minnesota and Wisconsin. And just these are our partners. So these folks all agreed to be a part of this partnership. Now, I will say that Tropical Wings has not the ability nor the intention to be active in all of these parks. Our home park, so to speak, is in our backyard, the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway. But all of these parks are a part of this professional exchange and partnership. Tropical Wings is supporting many different things within it, but working in our watershed. I should say that we have a board of 7 amazing people that are all volunteers and have a huge passion for this work, but we couldn't be doing something at each of these parks. So hopefully, perhaps you're getting inspired to go visit one of these that you haven't been to before. So those are the US parks. And then now we'll move to Costa Rica. Again, we've got 7 different parks, reserves, refuges that are a part of the agreement. And we actually take people to Costa Rica each year and we visit several of these parks. So as I mentioned, the partnership is all about the birds that we share. These neotropical migratory birds, some of them I'm sure you're going to recognize, especially the guy on the far left, as a bird that you see that comes to your yard. If you put out the grape jelly, you're going to see the Baltimore Oriole right there at your feeder. But I'm imagining you're noticing that you haven't seen them for a few months. They don't hang around here. Why do birds migrate? Why are they leaving this lovely place that we call home? Well, generally birds migrate because there are limited resources. So they're going to move from an area with low resources to an area with high resources. Well, what's the resource that they're concerned with? 2 main things. They need food, and all birds aren't going to eat seeds from your bird feeder. They're just not designed to do that. They're going to be insect eaters or fruit eaters. And then also during nesting season, of course, they need places to nest. So that's what's prompting this whole migration idea. So I want to go through and show you some of the migrants that we have here in Minnesota and Wisconsin that spend their winter down in Costa Rica and other neighboring areas. And so again, I'll give you a moment on each of these slides. We're in a live presentation. You'd be raising your hands and I'd be letting you chime in with the name of the bird, but I'll share with you. This is our eastern kingbird. This is a tough one to identify because you seldom see it. It's roosting is the term we use, resting during the daytime, and it comes out at basically dawn and dusk to feed on insects. So you're normally going to see it way up in the sky, and you see these little white stripes under the wings. It's a common nighthawk. This guy here is the northern water thrush. Normally you'd see him by water, so it's a little bit tricky, but he's up on a branch there. I like the birds where their colors tell you their names. This is the black and white warbler. Some of the questions that were sent in ahead of time for this presentation were, where do we see these migrants? Well, this guy is like in the same place almost every day during May when I'm hiking at Willow River State Park over here in Hudson. Also see him very often up at another great birding spot is up at William O'Brien, the trail that goes right along the river. Oh my gosh, you get there on the right day and they're like, the warblers are falling out of the trees in your lap almost. It's so exciting. Again, that's May that the warblers are passing through here on their way to their nesting places, which for some are right here in our actual location. Here's the Philadelphia vireo. I mean, Tennessee warbler, I'm bad, my bad. Some of you birders out there are going, what is she talking about? I have to relearn mine every spring myself. This is an exciting one to see. And we're really fortunate here in the St. Croix River Valley in that we have these are prothonotary warblers. We have these. They're a species of concern. They're not as common as they used to be, but they love water. They're cavity nesters. And if you're canoeing or kayaking along the river in May, keep your eyes open for these guys. They'll nest right in our riverway, right in our backyard. And that's a really exciting thing that we have prothonotary warblers. That's really, really, really special. This guy is another cutie that I love to see and see him, but he's a pretty easy one to see during migration, again during May. It's called the chestnut-sided warbler. I love the look. This guy, oh, I need to say, I did not take these pictures. Another one of our board members and my dear friend, Nina Cook, is the photographer extraordinaire. So Nina Cook is the one to congratulate on these gorgeous photos. This is a spotted sandpiper and often seen doing exactly that, just right along the edge of a waterway. Some of the backwaters on the St. Croix up near Franconia, I see them all the time. Great place to see the sandpiper. We already know this guy, the Baltimore Oriole. This is an American redstart, and these are probably one of the most common of our migrants that you're going to see if you're out hiking in any of our state parks, in your own backyard, anywhere where you've got decent habitat, woods, water, that kind of thing. They're really common. This is the magnolia warbler. This guy likes wetlands, as does the next guy. And again, another one that you can kind of look at its color and guess its name. It's a yellow warbler. A lot of these in the nest here in the St. Croix Valley. The masked bandit here is a common yellowthroat, another one that you're going to find near water. This is a Wilson's warbler, also often near water. The hooded warbler, I haven't seen a lot of hooded warblers. They're here, I'm sure. They're just not as common. This guy, you look at his eye and you see that it's red, and that helps with its name. It's a red-eyed vireo. And here, this is the one that most of the questions were asked about that were sent in it before the program. These guys are absolutely amazing in that under their own power, they're traveling from our backyards, literally, and they're traveling down to Costa Rica, which is a long ways away. We generally fly there if we want to go visit Costa Rica. Well, these guys fly too, but not in an airplane. One of the most amazing parts of the whole migration that they're making twice a year is that they're crossing the Gulf of Mexico, 500 miles, and there aren't a whole lot of resting places on the ocean, in the ocean, of course. Before they make that journey across the Gulf, they'll gain 25 to 40% of their weight. So they just eat like crazy because they're not going to be eating for that migration. But it's pretty darn amazing that they can make that migration in under 24 hours, that crossing of the Gulf of Mexico, which just sort of blows me away that they're able to do that. Now, the hummingbirds here, we've got the first week of March right now. They've all left Costa Rica by now, and they're, in fact, some of them left as early as January. And after they cross the Gulf, they're going to travel at about, they say, about 20 miles a day. So it's actually pretty cool. If you go online and search hummingbird migration, you can find a site that gives you a map with little images of hummingbirds, and it'll progress the hummingbirds up through the United States so you can see when they're almost at your doorstep. And as far as putting feeders out, which I know many of us love to do, about 2 weeks before they're anticipated to arrive in your neck of the woods is a great time to put those feeders out, and super important to clean those feeders. They say every day, but certainly every couple of days, so we're not making our feathered friends sick. This is a cuckoo, which are fun to see. These are also migrants we share with Costa Rica. The peregrine falcon, the northern harrier, so one of our hawks that likes open fields. And this guy we all see on the St. Croix River, and of course I'm sure you probably know right where a nest is of, this is an osprey, and so this is another one that we share with Costa Rica. Cedar waxwing, blue-winged teal. So
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's not just, a lot of people think of neotropical migratory birds as just the little cute little warblers, but we've got ducks, we've got hawks, as you saw. Here's a list of from the Wisconsin DNR. Craig Thompson spent a lot of time in Costa Rica, and as part of his work, he's actually gone through and confirmed which birds are breeding in Wisconsin specifically and will travel to Costa Rica. So there could be more, but these are the ones that are confirmed. And you can see that we've kind of highlighted some different ones. So based on, this is the Wisconsin's Wildlife Management Action Plan. So it's not Minnesota data, but Wisconsin. You can see that the greatest conservation need are in red, and then species considered species with information needs are blue, so they need more information on those. And then you can also see the endangered. The E is endangered, and I'm not sure if that's a federal, that's probably a federal designation, but for sure the state designation is endangered. The hooded warbler, which I showed you a picture of, is threatened. Again, they're very low population. Kentucky warbler, an Acadian flycatcher, and then of course the peregrine falcon is listed as endangered. Although I should check that. I know they're really making a comeback, so that status might have changed since this slide was created. But you can see that these are all birds you can find in Wisconsin. Many of them birds you can find right here in the St. Croix watershed. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that the Sister Parks Partnership has been involved in. The Smithsonian came here to the St. Croix watershed to do a study involving the wood thrush, which was a really exciting study. Some of you are familiar with Warner Nature Center, which of course is not is changing in its management and all that. But back several years ago, Warner Nature Center set up mist nets in cooperation with the Smithsonian researcher, and they captured some wood thrush, about 9 of them, I think, and I might be wrong on my numbers, but that's about what it was. And they put these little backpacks on the back of the bird. And these are called geolocators, a relatively new technology that is being used more and more to learn about the movements of our migratory birds. It's certainly great to take care of habitat up here in the watershed where they nest, great to take care of habitat down in Costa Rica where they spend their winters. But what about all the spots in between as they're migrating from Costa Rica to the watershed here and then back again? Those stopover sites are hugely important. And so one of the things the study is looking at is what is their migratory route? Where are they spending time? And where specifically, where are they spending their winter? And what happened then is that the birds, whoops, sorry. Let's get back here. The data from the geolocator could only be obtained if the birds were recaptured. So this is really cool. They went back to Warner Nature Center the next summer and they captured 7 of the birds. The birds came back to the exact same place, Warner Nature Center, were captured in the mist net, and then they downloaded the data, and this is just one of the birds showing exactly where it migrated, both southward and northward. So pretty cool stuff. We sponsored some students from the Northwest Passage program in a New Light to go to Costa Rica, and they did some photography that actually was brought all over the country in different exhibits. So we helped sponsor that. We are, one of the things we do as the official Friends group is we do some logistical support of these ranger exchanges. And 3 different years we've had the rangers up from Costa Rica visiting the different parks here in the upper Midwest. And we have sent rangers down to Costa Rica also. Education and habitat restoration are the 2 main things that we put our energy into. And there are sister bird festivals. We have one up here the 2nd weekend in May, and we're hoping that we'll actually be able to do a bird hike at the Hudson campus of Carpenter Nature Center the 2nd Saturday of May. And then the Osa Peninsula also hosts a bird festival. That's down in Costa Rica the 1st weekend in March. And when we take a group down to Costa Rica every winter, we're always there that 1st weekend in March so that we can participate in their bird celebration. So here's what their bird celebration looks like. One of the most exciting things is getting kids to start appreciating the birds for something more than just target practice, which is unfortunately what can happen sometimes. So lots of great education is happening down there with the birds and the youth. Um, we also, of course, work with students up here in the St. Croix watershed. We piloted a bird curriculum at Rivercrest School um, in 2019, and with the pandemic, unfortunately, we couldn't do it again this year, but we will do it again as soon as it is safe for us to go back into the schools. We have an art show with student art from both Costa Rica and kids up here in the St. Croix Valley. And so that's our display at the Hudson Hospital again in 2019. Last time we were able to do that. This year, even with the pandemic, we were able to have some things happen. We worked with rangers both in Costa Rica and up here in our national parks up here, and each country basically took turns giving a webinar for their colleagues in both parks in Costa Rica and parks up here. So sister park partnership webinars, we called them. So Costa Rica Rangers uh, put together a webinar, and then the Rangers up here put together a webinar, and we're kind of hoping that that'll continue to go back and forth a couple times each year. We did take a trip to Costa Rica. We came back right as everything was closing down. We're really glad we got that in. Of course, we had to cancel the trip. We'd be just getting back. I'd be there probably right now. But we do have one that we're already all solid on our itinerary for 2022. We awarded habitat grants to projects in both the St. Croix watershed and down in Costa Rica. And then one of our partners down in Costa Rica put together some volunteers to do some work in the national parks down there. Here's just the webinar that our Costa Rican ranger friends put together. That was this past August, excuse me. Here's our birdathon group from this last year. We see both our neotropical migrants that are spending the winter down there, and then of course the resident birds of Costa Rica. This really cool volunteer program that's happening down in Costa Rica. They're volunteer rangers, Covarinas, they're called. Tropical Wings helped them with some of the funding they needed to start this program. And the program came about because due to the pandemic, folks started going into the national parks illegally and poaching, doing a tremendous amount of poaching and gold mining. And some logging actually too, which is also illegal. And so there just wasn't enough people power with just the rangers to manage this huge influx of people doing these illegal activities. So the Covarinas were organized and are able to assist to help in protecting the resource and doing many other things, including some research and monitoring for the parks. Our Habitat Grant program, we actually are still accepting Habitat Grant applications. If you have a project that you know of from a homeowner, an agency, an organization, a city that would benefit neotropical migratory birds, some sort of habitat restoration, please let us know. We have donated funds to each of these organizations here on the slide. We've done this for quite a few years. We raised the funds through our trip to Costa Rica. Not sure why that showed up. Here's some of the places this last year that got funded. This one's really exciting. This is a teenager who was real passionate about habitat restoration, and she installed these gardens in all these places throughout the watershed. This was really exciting to work with her. And we worked with her to help her choose her plants. Lori Ullman worked with her up in Scandia to just make sure that what she did do made sense for the birds. So this was an exciting place to invest some of our habitat funds. A property adjacent to William O'Brien State Park that has been working for years on habitat restoration for a fairly large parcel of private land. Bellwyn Conservancy got a grant this past year. The city of Stillwater was awarded a habitat grant. And it's pretty exciting that the city of Stillwater has recently become a bird city, which is a designation by the state of Wisconsin. It's a Wisconsin program, Wisconsin Bird City, which is pretty exciting. Hudson is also a bird city. And then we also send money to Costa Rica every year for habitat projects down there. And so this was the project that happened in Costa Rica in 2020. And a lot of times the funds that go down there not only are supporting habitat, but they're supporting very small villages and the sustainable agriculture projects and such, and nurseries and things in these small villages on the Osa Peninsula. So I want to close with just going through not all 900 species, or we would be here all night. But I want to show some of the birds that we see when we go down to Costa Rica. These are the resident birds. They don't migrate up to see us, but they're sharing their backyard with our birds, as I like to think of them. This is basically a yellow warbler, but it's called the mangrove warbler. You can see it looks a little bit different. This is a motmot. Just the names of the birds down there are exciting, I think. These also are Nina pictures. They have so many different species of just every type of bird. Like we have, the house wren is our most common wren. Well, they've got dozens of wrens. Long-tailed silky flycatcher. Resplendent quetzal. This is really a special one and always exciting to see. It's not always guaranteed to see these, so we're pretty excited when we do. Many different kinds of wood creepers. These are araucaries, fiery araucaries. They're in the same tree every morning when we walk out from our lodge. They're just like clockwork. They fly in, hang around for a little while, and take off again. Pretty fun to see them. Many, 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 many different types of hummingbirds. And then just a note, it's always good to think about different ways you can help birds. Well, certainly everyone in this that has come to listen to this program cares about birds, or you wouldn't be here. And many of you are probably aware of the research that came out in the last couple of years that we've lost about 3 billion birds since 1970. And this was based on a huge multi-agency project of analyzing data since 1970. And many, 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 many of those losses are our songbirds, our warblers and such. So it's now there's no time like the present to take action to help birds. And there's some really simple things you can do, and that's where I'm bringing your attention to the right-hand side of the slide. Keeping your cats indoors. Yes, your cat eats birds. Yes, it does, even though you don't think it does, it does. Make windows safe there's many different products you can put on your windows so you're not losing birds to window collisions at your house. Using native plants. There's an awesome site that Audubon has. Again, just Google Audubon and native plants. You put in your zip code and they'll give you a list of the best plants to attract birds in your backyard. So the plants that will grow in your area. So it's just an awesome resource. So it's Audubon and just native plants or plants. Avoiding pesticides. And then anyone that drinks coffee, shade-grown coffee, not just shade-grown though, it should say bird friendly or certified for birds conservation. that really can help too, because that's where the birds are often nesting, is on coffee plantations. So drinking shade grown coffee is a helpful thing too. So the very last thing I'd like to do is one of the things that we do each year is, or when there isn't a pandemic, is we work with school children, teaching them more about the birds. And we have partnerships with different teachers at different schools, especially Rivercrest School. And a teacher at Rivercrest School wrote a song, boy, back in 2014, I believe, with his students, and he agreed to sing it for us here tonight. He didn't have a lot of choices because that teacher is my husband, but he did say yes, so that's awesome. And so John Mueller is going to sing this song for you. This song has been performed each year at our migratory bird celebration, and it has been performed by students down in Costa Rica. We've gone down and taught them the song too. So it's a very special song. I think you'll enjoy it, and I'm gonna get out of the way. If you want to see yourself.
So as Patty said, this song was written in coordination with some students that I was teaching at the time, and it was part of a big poetry writing project that we were doing for the Bird Festival that was going on during that time. So yeah, so I'm just going to sing the song. This is the first time ever sung on Zoom. So I'm hoping the sound is okay. And usually there's a lot of kids singing with me, so it's kind of strange to be singing alone. So there is a chorus that's part of the song that feel free to sing along wherever you are at, if you want to do that. They are the spirit of the ocean, perched on the ocean shore, an ancient heartbeat rising from the forest floor. A million wings are yearning, waiting for the dawning light, another season trying to make it right. And they're gonna fly, they're gonna sing, nothing can stop their wandering. They lift us up, the hope they bring. There are no borders beneath their wing. In the cradle of the Northland, the wild earth floor, they soon will be returning, as they did so long ago, to the valleys and the woodlands, rolling prairie land, Mother Nature's open loving hand. And they're gonna fly, they're gonna sing, nothing can stop their wandering. They lift us up with the hope they bring. There are no borders beneath their wing. The osprey and the merlin, the call of the whippoorwill, the wood thrush and the vireo give our hearts a thrill. The worm-eating warbler, quiet wood pewee, teaching us to set our spirits free. And they're gonna fly, they're gonna sing, nothing can stop their wandering. They lift us up with the hope they bring. There are no borders beneath their wings. From the tiny bugs that scramble to the mighty birds the kingdoms to the poorest of the poor. We're all part of every raindrop. We all need the same sunshine. These birds have helped us understand there really are no borderlines. One of the line, one cantar, no paran, sume Gracian, nos levantan con esperanza, no hay fronteras debajo de sus alas. They're gonna fly, they're gonna sing, nothing can stop their wandering. They lift us up with the hope they bring. There are no borders beneath their wings.
Thank you, John. The best part of the whole program. I hope you enjoyed Johnny's song. So I get to hear him singing all the time, so it's a treat. So that's it on the slides. I wanted to bring our website to your attention because we do have our video premiere April 3rd, a Zoom presentation that you may be interested in. You're more than welcome to join. It's actually going to be a virtual tour down in Costa Rica, visiting all of their resident birds and learning more about those birds down there. It's basically in place of our birdathon that we usually go down and see them in person. So check out our website and you'll get more information. We're in the process of posting the details about how to get connected to that premiere. So give it a couple of days and it should be up there. So Sue, if you want to, I don't know if any questions have popped up that I may be able to answer.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So I have one immediate question, and that is, who is it that goes on the tours?
Any adult. It is. I've taken high school kids, but these trips are for adults. So any adult that's interested. The trips are fundraisers, so we do ask that you're willing to do some, ask friends, family, whatever, for some funds to support habitat restoration in both the St. Croix Valley and Costa Rica. But yeah, anyone that's interested in traveling, there's a lot of, besides birding, we really are supporting sustainable tourism with small family-owned businesses. We tour a cocoa farm, a coffee farm, a organic farm. Again, just all very, very focused on the kind of the culture and lives of of local people and families. So we're staying in very simple lodges and traveling and seeing many, many, many different birds because we hit several different habitats. And we go to Corcovado, which is the crown jewel of the national parks down there. It's probably the most amazing place I have ever been. So yes, you just check our website and the information will be there. There's an info button at our website, for basically you just click on that, send me an email. I'm the one that gets those, and I will send you all of the information for the itinerary and the costs and all that. I'm literally putting that together this week. We've just finalized everything for 2022. The dates are February 20th to March 6th or something like that next year.
How many people usually go?
We always have a limit of 10 total people. We believe in small groups, so it does fill up fairly quickly, but that you can always, people generally get on a waiting list for the next year and then they're first to go because we do go every year. And again, it's a fundraiser, it's an educational opportunity. You participate in that bird festival we always have a booth where kids will come and do coloring and we'll give them stickers and you don't have to speak Spanish. It's great if you do, but most of us don't. So
Sounds like a unique experience, really.
it's really cool. Yeah, it's very very. You're not traveling like a tourist. You're a tourist, but we try and really travel sustainably, and we work with this amazing guide who their family has the tour business, and it's it's a great experience. And
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I get to go every year. So
Mhm. Sounds great. So I one of the things you mentioned is that the birds need food, and that's why they migrate. But of course, most of us think
one
of
of
it,
the reasons, yep.
yeah, one of. But I think of, and I think most people think of a tropical area as very lush.
Mm.
So it was a surprise to me to hear that the food they need when they're actually reproducing is really not very present in tropical areas. Is that right?
Well, the deal, the food is down there, but they've got a great deal of competition. Remember, I mentioned 900
Oh,
different species of birds in Costa Rica, and so when they're nesting, they need a tremendous amount more of food because they're feeding 3 or 5 or 8 offspring, and that resource is not available. They could stay down there by themselves and be bachelors, and eat all they want and they'd be fine. But if they want to nest and raise young, have that type of additional need of that much more resource, that's a problem. Actually, I was researching this a little bit before this program, and there's scientists don't know for sure, but there's evolutionary evidence that all of our migratory birds once were year-round residents in tropical areas, and then slowly they started kind of spreading out just to get a little bit more food, to find a little bit better nesting ground, and eventually they sort of followed the retreat of the glaciers. This is all going back 10,000 plus years, and it became a part of their genetic makeup to then do this migration. So genetics is a part of it. Certainly the magnetic field influences migration, day length influences migration, geography, weather. Um, but genetics, they're finding more and more, really plays a part in the whole migration miracle.
interesting. Huh. Well, there's some questions that did come in from people who were writing in. And one of the questions is, are the migratory birds going to Costa Rica and other tropical countries in a big decline as birds somewhere else are?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that 3 billion birds that we've lost since 1970, a good number of those are those tropical migrants. So definitely, and the the really difficult thing is as habitat is lost between the two places where the birds are spending their time, winter and summer, they won't be able to make the migration. I mean, they'll die. They have to. They can't fly from Costa Rica to our backyard without stopping and eating. It'd be impossible.
Right.
So there definitely have been declines. Some, depending on the species, some fairly large declines. It's quite interesting if you go to the Cornell site, all about birds, or just Google 3 billion birds lost. There's some excellent articles. I think National Geographic even did one. Um, just breaking down, the different groups of birds and how they've been impacted. It's sobering reading, but really motivating to. I'm turning all of my plantings over to native plantings and have been for quite a few years. But just anything you can do to help these birds would be great.
And between here in Costa Rica, are there efforts being introduced to give them more food?
Well, I'm sure there are that different organizations along the way. Rotary International actually is having an initiative for pollinators all the way down the I-35 corridor
Mhm.
to um, trying to involve all the different Rotary clubs that would be in those geographical areas and have them planting for pollinators. So those kinds of initiatives, Tropical Wings is certainly owned. Again, we're 7 volunteers. We're a drop in the bucket with things we do up here in the watershed and down in Costa Rica. We're not doing something. The sister parks, as a part of this partnership, aren't doing something, but there's certainly people that live in all those areas that care about habitat and understand the importance of it. But you still, like everywhere, there's pressure to develop, and that destroys habitat. So.
Well, someone asked, and you already referred to this, but maybe you could say a little more about where to see these birds, the migratory birds in the St. Croix Valley.
Yes, absolutely. So clear your calendar for May. Every morning, get up before the sunrise and pick a state park in the watershed. Or any natural place you want to go hiking. But William O'Brien, I already mentioned, along the waterway, that river trail, awesome. Carpenter Nature Center, you can hike there. Great. Anywhere where there's some edge habitat. So like you've got the woods and then maybe you got a field or a prairie. Afton State Park is another great example. But William O'Brien, there isn't a state park that you can't find warblers because they're all along the river, right? All of our great parks. And then just get there early. They're not going to be moving around as much on a rainy day, of course. And then there's something called I think it's called Birdcast, will actually show you the waves of migration. They can actually see migrating birds on radar. You can Google, and again, I know I'm using the internet a lot as a resource, but there's just so much on there that'll help you know when is there going to be a big influx of migrants that are dropping down and feeding for the day, because they're going to potentially go way up northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota. They're not all nesting here. But just any of our state parks, hike along the river, hike along, a wooded area, hike in the woods too. The different warblers are going to stop in different places based on their feeding behavior and habits. But as soon as those leaves come out, the insects are there, and that's what's bringing them in. I mean, the warblers aren't going to get here when there's no food. Well, they're not going to be successful if they do. So, yeah, so May is a great time, and any of our state parks.
Well, that's great.
Or your backyard, if you are lucky enough to live on the river.
Well, does having a bird feeder make a big difference?
Not for the majority of our migrants. They're insect eaters. What makes a big difference is having plantings that will attract them. The oak trees are huge. If you have oak trees, just bring your binoculars out to your oak trees early morning in May, and you're going to see warblers, and you're going to hear them. They just love their oak trees are host to so many larvae, so many insects. They're just awesome for bird habitat. But any other native plantings, and that Audubon site will literally tell you what to plant in your backyard, shrubs and perennials and trees that'll attract birds. So they're not going to go and eat bird seed because they're insect eaters. So they're not going to come to your bird feeders per se, but of course you know about hummingbird feeders and the jelly for the orioles, so that you can get some of that action going on. And you can, I think there might be a couple other things you can do, but mainly it's your plantings that are going to influence if they're going to come into your backyard.
Well, I see some people have their hands up, but first I want to finish with just a couple questions that came in when people registered. And one of them asked, can you give hints on how to spot a hummingbird nest?
Ooh, well, they are very small. They're, like this big around, I mean, they're super tiny. They're made of like moss and such and other really tiny spider webs, teeny tiny things. and they're often up. I just saw one last summer at Willow River State Park, just on Trout Brook Trail. It was just up 15 feet off the ground in the crotch of a couple of branches that came together of an oak tree. So it's just got to keep your eyes open and watch for the hummingbirds. Just watch them and just watch where are they going. I had hummingbirds in my backyard, as probably a lot of you do, that have the habitat, but I could never find the nest. I looked and I looked and I looked and I tried to watch them. They're so tiny and they're up in the leaves, really hard to find, but pretty fun. We often find them when we go to Costa Rica, though our guide is able to spot those kinds of things because he's just so good at it. But I haven't seen very many down here. Good luck.
One person asked, what is it, is there any effect that the border wall has had on the migratory birds?
Well, not necessarily the habitat destruction, certainly. I mean, that you take out habitat and you're going to take out nesting sites and such for the birds that don't migrate any farther than that area. But being that, of course, they're birds that can fly, it doesn't influence like a migration pattern. It could be a stopover area where they have less food because the habitat isn't there. It's definitely impacting any ground birds, you know, turkeys, those kinds of things. I mean, not our migrants, but there are birds that like roadrunners, pheasants, quail, that they're going to be impacted. But our neotropicals, just some habitat destruction, I would say, for stopover sites.
Okay, everybody can unmute now.